Okay. This article came up, of course, at the end of last month. I meant to try to do a video on it sooner, but various things got away from me, so I didn't do that. All right. Global banks bracing for losses amid U.S. hedge fund collapse. This is a pretty short read. World banks may lose over $6 billion from the downfall of U.S. investment firm Ar- Archegos. I, let me know if I'm getting that right. I don't know. Capital. Sources told Reuters. Regulators are closely monitoring the situation as panic spreads about the possible scale of the fallout. The sudden liquidation of the New York based billionaire Bill Huang's Archegos Capital Management ignited a fire sale of more than $20 billion in assets that has left some of the world's biggest investment banks bearing billions of dollars of losses. According to billionaire investor Mike Novogratz, the collapse of Huang's Archegos fund could turn out to be, quote, the most spectacular personal loss of wealth in history, unquote. The problem started last week when a disappointing stock sale by media giant Viacom CBS triggered devastating bank margin calls for Archegos. Three people familiar with the matter said. Shares in Viacom CBS plummeted 23%. Doomcock, I believe, did a video about that, about the Viacom stock. Last Wednesday, after the media company sold shares at a price that diluted its value. The shares continued to decline, setting off alarm bells at Archegos prime brokers and prompting them to offload stock in all Archegos investments. According to the sources, Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley were quick to offload shares on Friday, forestalling a material financial impact. Meanwhile, investment banks Nomura and Credit Suisse, I don't know, warned investors that they were facing huge losses from their exposure to Archegos. Shares in Japan's Nomura plunged 16% and Credit Suisse dropped 14% amid analyst speculations on how much money they could lose. Nomura has already warned it faces a possible $2 billion loss, while Credit Suisse, no idea whether that's, I don't, I don't even know what nationality that might be. Said its losses would be, quote, highly significant and material, unquote. Analysts estimate the Swiss bank's losses could amount to $4 billion. In a statement, Credit Suisse said that quote, a significant U.S. based hedge fund defaulted on margin calls made last week, unquote, and that meant it and other banks were forced to, quote, the process of exiting these positions, unquote. Deutsche Bank said it had significantly de-risked its Archegos exposure without incurring any losses and was managing down its, quote, immaterial remaining client positions, unquote, on which it did not expect to incur a loss. Uh, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission said on Monday it had been monitoring the situation and communicating with market participants since last week as panic spreads about the possible scale of the fallout from the forced liquidation of Wang's fund. Regulators in the UK, Switzerland, and Japan also said they were following the developments. Investors are meanwhile raising concerns that the full impact of Archegos' problem has not been realized. Market observers recalled that only in February, hedge funds took major losses on short positions during the run up in the GameStop stock. Hedge fund deleveraging also contributed toward turmoil in the U.S. Treasuries market in March 2020. Um, uh, this whole thing is, I mean, if you are someone who is invested in or or just interested in the the stability of things, then obviously this is potentially quite alarming. If you're like me and you don't have the money to be invested in anything, and you understand something of the underlying social ills that are going to drive absolute destabilization, and you might as well forget about anything being stable going forward, then it's just kind of a sit back and enjoy as everything burns down around you time, because I mean that's what's coming. My advice to people is to, I guess you'd say, brace for impact or whatever, but it's like just yeah, I mean, I can't give you financial advice or anything like that, but my advice, for you personally would be to just accept things as they come, because um these are these are not things that you can affect. These are big uh big paradigm changes or whatever that no individual can really do anything about. So these things are just going to happen. Um, and in the meantime, it's amusing to see, especially it's this is I mean, there's a lot of financial shit here, uh, but we're seeing probably the beginnings of the fall of the entertainment industry. It's like they're going to go down in flames. It's just a matter of time. And on the one hand, they have only themselves to blame, and not just like stupid moves they've made recently. I mean, the fact that they've been undermining, the culture and values of America and the West for, a century or so. It's like, they kind of, they've done this to themselves in many respects. But it, it's going to be funny to watch them uh, die, you know, and everybody panic and everybody act like, oh, nobody could have seen this coming. And it's like, actually, a lot of people saw it coming. A lot of people. um, anyway, I mean, it really is probably too late for them to change their ways and do anything correctly. And so in as far as like just the pop culture entertainment front of things, it's like don't expect there to be any major changes, and if they do make major changes, don't expect it to last, because the whole thing is going to implode. But we can all at least have the satisfaction of telling them after they have crashed and burned, "We told you so." All right. Until the next one.